Well, what's up guys, Dale here from Team Wnax. I'm going to take you through my Dark World deck profile for the new Dark World structure deck. I think Dark World's a really cool archetype. It's kind of infamous for being a deck that just kind of plays with itself, which those are fun to play in a tournament setting, not so fun to play against. But I actually really like how this deck ends up playing out now. It's a lot less oppressive in terms of like when the combo goes off. You don't really auto win as much, but you can play a little bit more consistent, a little bit better going second, not having so many of the bad Dark World cards in the deck anymore. So I really like this deck a little bit more now that you're not trying to just play an FTK build. I think you can actually play pretty well into everything, and I don't have to play as many gambling cards like Card Destruction, Dark World Dealings. Those cards just aren't necessary in my opinion, and I like this build a lot more. So let's get into it. I'll explain some of the new cards and kind of my logic while playing this deck. So to start off with, we play Beige, Silva. These are kind of like the standard ones. Silva was like part of the FTK loop, or sort of the hand rip loop where you just shuffle your opponent's whole hand back in. You don't need to do that anymore. So the logic now, without having access to Curious, it's not really that consistent. So you're instead using Silva as a way to special summon and create the Grapha loop. For anyone who doesn't know, the Grapha loop is you summon Silva, use Grapha to bounce the Silva, and then discard Silva again, use Grapha to bounce the Silva, and it just lets you create free resources on board and essentially turn a lot of the neg ones or the cards where it's just giving you pressure on the board into resources, which is super nice. And that's one of the main ways this deck really is able to apply pressure for free, is that you can just get so many free leaf materials and just a free rank 8 essentially after summoning the Graphas, and the Graphas just go for game later on because there's 3k bodies 90% of the time. And then Beige kind of functions the same way, but he's a level 4, which is better in a lot of cases. And you do need him for some of the combos to make some extensions later on. Silva is also specifically really good because of the fusion. It now turns you negating one of their cards into the effect of your opponent has to put 2 cards from their deck, or 2 cards from their hand into the bottom of the deck, which is insane. It basically means your opponent, if you set up this plus this is playing on 3 cards, then you just need to make 3 more negates, and your opponent can't play the game. Absolutely nutty. From there, triple Brow Huntsman, the Dark World, just draw cards. The new one, Genta, this card's insane. So Genta's effect is that he searches for the field spell by discarding himself, which is absurd to begin with because now he sets it up. But he also summons himself back if you control a Dark World card. Meaning, as long as Gates is on the board after you resolve Genta, after you resolve its banish effect, so they don't cyclone it or anything, you just summon back Genta for free, giving you a free level 4 body to make actual SD plays with. Super nice. From there, triple Grapha, Dryden Lord of Dark World. You just don't have to play 3. You need to see it. I don't like playing 3 per se, but I realize that a lot of the time I'm going to be banishing it, so I want to make sure I have at least see more than 1 copy. It can be a brick at sometimes, but that's not too big of a deal. Next we have Rainbow, Supreme Overlord of the Dark World. He's kind of a budget. He's kind of does the same thing as Grapha does. The only difference between Grapha and Rainbow is that you need Grapha for the fusion, which kind of sucks. But that's not usually that big of a deal in this deck. This deck doesn't really care that often. A lot of times you're using them for the same thing, but you just need to have the Grapha for the fusion because you're going to be banishing it most of the time. From there, Rainbow also has the effect that's a little bit better than Grapha for going first, at least, is that he can search for Grapha. Insane, I know. He searches for level 5 or higher, so he's basically adding Silver or Grapha every time. Super nice, though. From there, Snow. Snow's effect is that it searches for a Dark World card. It's basically just that. When it's discarded, you search for a Dark World card. It is one of the most important pieces of that because it allows you to access everything. One of the newer cards, Charge into Dark World. Target 1 level 4 Lord Fiend monster in your graveyard, special summon it, then discard 1 Fiend monster. Really nice, obviously, discarding a Fiend. It's technically a neg 1, but a lot of the time you're plussing off that you want to get those Fiends in the graveyard. You need it for a lot of your Rain 4 extension because you can make the first Rain 4 super easy using Genta plus any either Snow from your graveyard or Beige is super free, or even a Mothman. But after that, you do need to work a little bit harder. You're going to need to use Mark Cracker plus Beige all the time to make your Rain 4 play. From there, the new fusion spell, Dark World Ascension. You can pitch it. You can pitch a Dark World from your hand to add this back to your hand, and this is a Miracle Fusion that also can discard from the hand, so it can trigger your effects in the hand also. Super insane. One of the best cards in the deck. You only play 2 because it's super searchable. You don't really want to open multiples because you have to have Grapha to use it, essentially. There's no other good Fiend fusions in the game that are generic. From there, Dark World Library, another new card, super broken. It is a way to pitch a Dark World out of your hand. You pitch it, all your Dark Worlds gain 100 attack for the level of monster you discarded. And then if a Dark World was discarded by the effect of a Dark World card, you can discard a card and draw 2 cards. Super broken. It's just essentially a +2 most of the time. 3 gates to the Dark World. You have a way to search it now. super consistent. Before I only liked 2 because you couldn't always get it off, but now you can just go Genta at this. It's insane. Triple Allure, really good with Genta, just so you draw a card. Really nice. Drag Down to the Grave, one of the main reasons to play this deck, to be honest. It can be a little awkward to play around with it sometimes, but a lot of times it's not a big deal. A lot of time you're going to drag down, you look at your opponent's hand, you can take out like one of the key cards. So either you take out a starter, that could be literally take out Spright Starter, or you could take cards like Lava Golem, Evenly, Dark Ruler, cards that would normally be hard to deal with, you can just remove from their hand, and you have to say, okay, well now I've put you on 2 of them, you have to hit a 2 and 35 now. Good luck. And then we have 1 Dark World Puppet. This is another good card. You target up to 3 cards in your graveyard, banish them. Obviously, with Tyr in the format being very popular, this card is extremely good. It also has the effect that, and then you discard a Fiend monster. It does kind of suck that you have to discard for it, because a lot of time at the end of your board, you don't really have a ton of Fiends in hand, and it has to be a Fiend. But where it doesn't really matter is that you can go like this and then use another card to discard. Like you can go like this and then chain your fusion spell, banish 3, and you don't have to discard because it's a then do it. So there's ways to play around the discard. It's kind of annoying, but it does trigger your effects, and it's really, really important for breaking through like Medora and Keldo when you're playing ishizu tier. You kind of just have to play one just because you want to see it, and it's also just another discard outlet. We play a danger package, obviously, with Danger Dark World, the old faithful. 2 Danger Mothman, 1 Danger Jackalope, 3 Nessie, 2 Bigfoot. My logic for my ratios is that, well, I think I want to have 2 Mothman and 2 Bigfoot because I want to resolve one of them at least, each in my hand. I'm fine with that. But I want to keep a copy in deck for Jackalope almost always, so because I can use them for rank 8 plays. After that, 1 Jackalope is all you can play, and 3 Nessie because that's all you can play. I don't play Tsuchinoko because the level 3 body doesn't really matter. Links are relatively easy to make as it is anyways, so it's just not that important. Also, you need Bigfoot to clear like problematic cards. Like specifically like Necro Valley, Di-Fi, Macro, Wind Barrier Statue. All those cards are really obnoxious to deal with. Something else to them is important. So that's the main deck, 40 cards. I've actually found this very consistent. I really don't break with it very often. You get some wonky hands sometimes. Like when I was testing, I was playing versus my friend who's playing Striker with like a bunch of hand traps, just as like a theory to like deal with a deck that's playing a bunch of like hard outs to it, like DD Crow, Stallmeister, Bestials, all that stuff. And I was still able to make boards through like 3 to 4 hand traps, like relatively easily, honestly. So I really like the main deck here. I think it's really solid. I did have games where like I would open like, oh hey, open like 2 rainbows, 2 brows, and a snow, and I'm like, awesome. I don't know what to do now. But yeah, that doesn't happen too often. Obviously it can. You're playing 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14 cards that on their own do absolutely nothing. You can even count like Gates as one of those. But you're playing a combo deck. You just kind of have to take that risk. And most of the time, I mean, you're playing what? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21 cards that aren't going to be a bricks, aren't going to be like hard bricks. So yeah, you're more often than not, that's not going to happen. So obviously this has like the same problem with the flunder. Sometimes you just don't draw the cards, but at the same time, this deck is insane when it goes off. Super fun. From there, going to the side deck, I wanted to play cards that beat the cards that beat me, if that makes sense. So we play Triple Twin, 1 Feather Duster. Going second, I think this deck is insane if it does not get floodgated specifically. So I wanted to play the outs to those. Obviously with Di-Fi, Macro, and Necro Valley all being like popular cards in the format, you need a way to deal with them. This is, in my opinion, the best way to do it. Just play the outs to them in there, and then you also have the Bigfoots, which are pretty like easy to get to. Grapha can get rid of Necro Valley specifically also. So yeah, I felt like I had enough like main deck macro hate already in terms of like Bigfoot and Grapha just being able to deal with it, that I wanted these specific for Di-Fi macro. So yeah. From there, we have to play our outs to Shifter, because fuck Shifter. We play the 1 called by Triple Gamma, 1 Driver. These are your outs to Shifter. I don't like Respect Shifter that much. I've been Shifter. This deck can pseudo play through it, mainly because Genta, if you banish it, gets to special summon itself back. You have allures, you have the dangers. There's ways to play through Shifter. It's just not optimal. So I respect Shifter, but it is not the worst thing to deal with. So we play 4 outs to it. If we see one, we see one. If we don't, we don't. The nice thing about Gamma in this deck specifically is they're pretty much never going to shift you in draw phase. When they're going to shift you is after you're like using an effect that would allow they're going to use it on their turn, or when you're resolving an effect that would make it so Shifter is live, is essentially using an effect that would like send a card from the hand to grave, because they don't want you resolving your Dark World effects at all. So it's always going to be live first, because you're never like normal summoning before you do it, or special summoning before you would discard a card. From there, I wanted outs to Abyss Dweller because I thought I wanted outs to Abyss Dweller because I thought that was like the next best party in this deck that you're going to see commonly. So I played triple Droplet, triple Imperm. I felt like I was comfortable with this. Imperm obviously like can be kind of questionable, mainly because most opponents are going to look at it like they don't have to shotgun it, which is kind of true. But a lot of people will shotgun it because they're just gonna go. They're just not gonna want to like have you draw more cards and have a possible out to it. Yeah, I don't know. They might not want to get Dark Ruler. There's a couple reasons they could do it. You're basically playing this or Dark Ruler. I guess like the main thing is they don't want to get Dark Ruler, whereas like Imperm will immediately like be live into it. That's kind of was my fear. But it kind of just depends on what your opponent makes the read on. If they see the Imperm, they're probably going to shotgun it. If they don't see the Imperm, they might assume you have Dark Ruler and want to play around that. So yeah, you kind of have to make a better call. I think Imperm's also just a better draw. Obviously, like Imperm the Kit Talos is pretty fire. So I was just more comfortable with Imperm personally than Dark Ruler. For the extra deck, we play 2 Graphas. I want to fit a third because it does come up, but not that much as opposed to everything else. From there, we play the Dweller, Badusta, Dudares. This is really neat. This is like the only deck that's not DDD that can make this. DD King Wave King Caesar into DDD Divisor King Deus Machinax, or Deus Machinax, Machinax? Sure. Is super, super insane. This card is really, really oppressive to deal with if you don't have an out to it. And when it's backed up by 1 negate and then usually like a Harbinger, it means if they don't have the Imperm, this card's stealing 2 monsters from them, which is really absurd. So basically how this card works is you make the DD Wave King 2 Fiends, and then you use this, put this on top of it, and you can take cards. And the reason that's relevant is this other card, Muckracker, which we'll go over, is insane in the deck. And yeah, it's really relevant when you need to be able to make a Fiend, and just making a Badusta is bad, and just making a Dudares doesn't give you interactions. So yeah, it's really relevant. We'll get to it. And then the 1 Zeus, obviously, because we're playing a deck that can spam exercises really easily. And then 1 Hope Harbinger because it's super easy to summon between Rainbow, Grapha, and Bigfoot. From there, going into our links, we play 1 Dark, 1 Masquerena, 1 Muckracker, 1 Unicorn, 1 Appaloosa, and 1 Underworld Goddess. You don't really need access code ever. Underworld Goddess is going to out their big link monsters, so like any of the stereo cards that access code might want to swing over, Goddess will out. Appaloosa, obviously it's very easy to summon this deck. You can really easily spam link some of the board. Unicorn for Masquerena, and also as a way to just break boards. And then we'll go into Masquerena and Darker Common, but we'll go into Muckracker. Muckracker to me is really, really interesting. It's one of the new TCG exclusive cards, I believe, that came out in Darkwing Blast. Its effect is that you can discard 1 card, and if you do, special summon them, or target 1 Fiend monster in your graveyard, except Muckracker, discard 1 card, and if you do, special that monster. So why that's crazy is that 1, it's not an effect, or it's not a cost, it's an effect, and it discards, meaning it's going to trigger your Dark Worlds. The other thing that's super, super crazy about that is that you can just bring back like a Snow, summon the Grapha if you want to, or you bring back the Snow, discard the Beige, and then you can go into DDT Wave Team Caesar, and then put Deus Machinax on top of it. It really helps you on break sometimes. And this is the only way to make a Fiend that makes an interaction. So this becomes extremely, extremely relevant. But yeah, that's the deck. I'm not a super big fan of FTK decks. I think they're boring to play. And I also don't think they're usually that good. I think like the Dark World FTK deck was like kind of good, but it going second, it had a lot of bad draws. I think this is a much more like a reasonable approach to take with the deck. We're just making boards. We have really good ability to go second, and because of our Dark World Ascension, usually being able to add it back on our turn, we're able to play a follow-up if they break our board into just making our big guy again. We can basically make enough outs to deal with everything our opponent does, which is super absurd. And it's very consistent at doing it. And we're playing cards that let us beat the cards that would beat us, knowing we already have like pretty good matchups and everything. So yeah, that's the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. Remember to subscribe if you did. Check out Team Wnax. Check out my channel, Galley TCG. Thanks for watching. I'll see you guys later. Bye.